Drop everything and listen to this. Right before President Trump's inauguration, Democrat senators were using the round of confirmation hearings for Trump's picks as a way to goad and corner them. That's exactly what Senator Mazie Hirono tried with Pam Bondi, and it's got a lot of people questioning why the hearing was tainted with politics like this. Watch for yourself and you'll know exactly what I mean.
Ms. Bondi, we want an attorney general who bases decisions on facts. So I want to ask you a factual question. Who won the 2020 presidential election?
Joe Biden is the President of the United States.
Ms. Bondi, you know that there is a difference between acknowledging it and, I can say that Donald Trump won the 2024 election. I may not like it, but I can say it. You cannot say who won the 2020 presidential election. Okay. It's disturbing that you can't give voice to that fact. Moving on to DOJ's independence from politics. Ms. Bondi, if you are confirmed as Attorney General, you will take an oath to the Constitution and not to any individual, including the President. To start, I'd like to know whether you agree with some of the statements President-elect Trump made during the election, during the campaign. First, are the felons convicted of breaking into the Capitol on January 6th hostages or patriots, quoting Trump, as President-elect Trump has said repeatedly? Do you agree with his characterization of the felons that I referred to?
I am not familiar with that statement, Senator.
I just familiarized you with that statement. Do you agree with that statement?
I'm not familiar with it, Senator.
Okay, no answer. He has also said illegal immigration is poisoning the blood of our nation. He said that in December 2023. Do you agree with that statement?
Senator, I am not familiar with that statement, but what I can tell you is I went to the border a few months ago. I went to Yuma, Arizona, and what I saw at that border was horrific, Senator. It was horrific.
Ms. Bondi,
I went to a crisis center.
That is not my question.
I went to a crisis center. I'm not familiar with the statement, but I went to a crisis center. I met with Border Patrol agents. I'm sure you've been to the border as well.
What kind of political point scoring is this? A Senate confirmation hearing is supposed to probe whether the candidate can do their job, not dig old political gotcha questions. But I think when you think a layer deeper about why Senator Hirono even asked these loaded questions, you realize how Pam Bondi's calm refusal to play her game was actually a stroke of genius that disarmed her. By the way, we are telling the truth that others are too afraid to say so. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to always stay in the loop. Now remember, in a Senate hearing like this, you often don't get to say more than a couple of words before you're interrupted in the interest of time and told to be specific. But some questions just can't be answered in a yes or no. For example, if someone asks, let's say if you stopped loving your spouse, there's no way to answer that question with a yes or no without accepting the presupposition baked into it. And that is why Senator Hirono knew exactly what she was doing by asking Pam about J6 protesters or the illegal migration. Unfortunately, she wasted more precious time trying to settle past political scores instead of the real questions that deserve to be asked for someone that wants to hold the highest legal office of the executive branch.
Meanwhile, though, you have an incoming president who said, I have the absolute right to do what I want to do with the Justice Department. And in fact, President-elect Trump considers the DOJ to be his law firm. I ask you this. If President-elect Trump asks, suggests, or hints that you as Attorney General should investigate one of his perceived political enemies, would you do so?
Senator Hirono, I wish you had met with me. Had you met with me, we could have discussed many things and gotten to know you.
I am listening to you now. Could you respond to the question?
Yeah, you were the only one who refused to meet with me, Senator. But what we would have discussed is that it is the job of the Attorney General to follow the law.
I'm very happy to listen to your responses under oath, Ms. Bondi. So I think it's really important to us that the Attorney General be independent of the White House. And you have a president-elect who considers the AG's office his law firm. I would like to know whether if the president suggests, hints, asks, that you, as Attorney General, should investigate one of his perceived enemies?
Senator, I
do?
certainly have not heard the president say that, but what I will tell you is 2/3 of Americans have lost faith in the Department of Justice. And it's statements like that, I believe,
Ms.
that make
Bondi.
people continue to lose faith. If I am confirmed as Attorney General, it will be my job
Getting
to
on
not
to my
only
next
keep
question,
America
you're not
safe,
responding.
but restore integrity to that department.
Why don't we
and that's
move
what
on
I
to
plan
something
on
that
doing
you said?
every single day as Attorney General.
Senator Hirono is itching to get an emotional reaction out of Pam Bondi and failing, but it's hard to imagine that it wouldn't be aggravated to be sat down and questioned about upholding trust in the legislative branch of government, when the last 4 years of the Biden administration have seen the sharpest drop of public trust in institutions like the DOJ or FBI for precisely the kind of politicization that Senator Hirono alleges could happen. Polls from places like Rasmussen suggest that the trust deficit is as large as 2/3 of the voter base, which is alarming if you think about it. And yet, there's no accounting for the past that happens at a hearing like this, and Senator Hirono is instead more interested in conjuring up hypotheticals against Pam.
On August 25th, 2025, on Fox News, you said, when Republicans take back the White House, the Department of Justice, the prosecutors will be prosecuted, the bad ones, the investigators will be investigated. Ms. Bondi, is Jack Smith one of those bad prosecutors that you will prosecute as AG?
Senator, you hesitated a bit when I said the bad ones. Every decision
Sometimes
will be
badness
made
in the eyes
dis-
of the beholder. I'm just asking whether you would consider Jack Smith
Senator,
to be one of the people. How about Liz Cheney?
Senator,
How about Merrick Garland?
I am not going to answer hypotheticals. No one has been prejudged, nor will
I
anyone
am
be
asking whether
prejudged if I am
these are the
confirmed.
kind of people, these are in fact the people that you would prosecute. I'm not
Your,
getting an
your
answer.
time is up.
What is up with these questions? They're either fixated on the past, made up hypotheticals, or questions about future policy that hasn't even been decided or really looked at. Jack Smith has already quit the Justice Department long before Donald Trump's inauguration. Merrick Garland is leaving behind a grim legacy that many allege politicization of the DOJ under him, especially with things like extended statute of limitations or misdemeanors turned into felonies just to ensure Donald Trump into a complicated legal web. And for a hearing like this that is set under oath, Senator Hirono understands exactly the thin legal line Pam would be walking if she answered any of those questions head on. But perhaps that's the hole she wanted Pam to dig herself into, and the only way to stop that from happening was to stop playing that game altogether. That's why when Senator Ted Cruz finally took the mic, he even had to push back against these sad attempts to corner or incite a reaction out of Pam Bondi when there's dozens more people wanting to ask the real questions to a potential attorney general.
I don't know that there is a more important position in this new administration than the position to which you have been nominated, Attorney General of the United States. I thought the exchange just a moment ago with Senator Hirono was illustrative. She asked you how you would respond if the president asked you to target his political enemies. It's rather striking because it's not a hypothetical. It has happened over the last 4 years. And I think perhaps the most tragic legacy of the Biden-Harris administration has been the politicization and the weaponization of the United States Department of Justice. And we don't need to ask hypothetically because Joe Biden publicly mused and allowed the New York Times to report it, calling on Merrick Garland, why will he not prosecute Trump more quickly? And Merrick Garland, sadly, he sat in that chair and promised to be apolitical, and he broke that promise almost the instant he walked into the Department of Justice.
I'm sure this was a welcome departure for Pam Bondi to what had been going on for several minutes, but it's still a snapshot of the political polarization that still plagues neutral and national proceedings like this. But let me know in the comments how you process all of this, because now, after President Donald Trump has formally begun his second term, there will be a lot of Americans across the political aisle wanting the justice system to regain that lost trust once again.